The government has pledged to do whatever is required to keep the Jewish community safe following yesterday's terror attack at a Manchester synagogue in which 2 people were killed.
Sir Keir Starmer pledged a more visible police presence, saying hatred is rising once again in Britain and must be defeated. And the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, joins us now. Good to speak to you this morning. You maybe won't have heard, because it's a very busy morning for you, but we had Dov Foreman, great-grandson of the Auschwitz survivor, Lily Eber, and he was saying that despite those promises, despite those strong words, this government should not be surprised this has happened. It's been coming for a long time and more should have been done. What can you tell the Jewish community this morning that you're going to do now to keep them safe?
Well, look, this has been an absolutely devastating anti-Semitic terrorist attack at a synagogue yesterday, and I have been talking to people in the community here in Manchester, but also across the country as well. I do understand that strength of feeling. I know people are devastated, they're feeling hurt, they are upset, they are fearful. And my message is that we will do what is needed to keep the community safe. It is our Jewish community, and I don't want people in our Jewish community to feel like they have to live a smaller Jewish life here in Britain. We have already increased police patrols and upped police presence around synagogues all over the country and other places that the Jewish community use, other communal institutions. We will carry on working as closely as we already have with the Community Security Trust, who are our main partners when it comes to the security of the Jewish community. And we are looking at all of the measures that we have in place. There will be a moment in the next few days and weeks once we have more information about what happened with the attack yesterday and its planning and its preparation and all of the details around the response, to then reflect on and consider what lessons there are to be learned going forward. But my commitment to our community is that we will, if there are lessons to be learned, we will learn those lessons. But in the meantime, we have increased security so that people can go about their business in safety.
He cited, and others have on our programme this morning, pro-Palestinian demonstrations and protests. Freedom of speech is vitally important. We know that the sympathy for the horrors in Gaza is vitally important, but he pointed particularly to the ones in Manchester and London last night, which had a slightly different take. We know they were involved in, Greta Thunberg and the release of that. But he said that there, the language that was used, the banners that were held up, you cannot be surprised, were his words, that this sort of thing happens when those are taking place. And he wanted us to put that to you.
Well, look, I was so disappointed to see protests go ahead last night. I think that behaviour is fundamentally un-British. I think that people could have stepped back to show some solidarity and, frankly, some kindness to people that have suffered such devastating loss. People are grieving today and yesterday and will be in the days to come. And a little kindness, I think, could have gone a very long way. I'm very clear that whilst, yes, freedom of speech and freedom of protest are precious freedoms that all of us have in this country. Just because you have a freedom doesn't mean to say you have to use it at every moment. And stepping back and just giving people the chance to process what has happened, a chance to grieve, I think in these circumstances would have been the best of British response that we would have hoped for. But those protests did go ahead. The police were present. They did make arrests. And those who break our law will face the full force of the law.
Now, but Shabana Mahmood, there'll be some people on those protests who will say that they were there simply, and the only reason was to support people in Gaza and to protest against the interception of the flotilla that's on its way to Gaza. Dov Foreman was talking about some of the protests that have taken place over the last 2 years, and he was talking about slogans that we hear, whether it's River to the Sea or references to the Intifada. Now, there's lots of misinterpretations about those terms. But you yourself in years gone by, have been on pro-Palestinian marches and protests. We've seen that as Muslims, British Muslims. You were one of the key figures at those marches. But you can't be responsible for everybody on those marches, can you? Or not? I mean, you were on those marches back then. Should you have not taken part in those marches? Because in those marches, there may well have been some people who said things that were anti-Semitic at the time.
Well, I think that individuals have to take responsibility for their own actions, and there will be people who go on marches and behave in a perfectly lawful and legitimate way. It might involve, differences of political opinion about things that happen in the Middle East and around the world, but legitimate, lawful protest is a part of our freedoms here in Britain. That is entirely separate from those individuals who go on protests and engage in other activity that is designed to incite racial hatred and to incite violence. We have strong laws in order to prevent that behaviour, and where those laws are broken, I would expect to see the police make arrests, the prosecution to pursue cases, and for the criminal justice system to provide a measure of justice when our laws are broken. They will face the full force of the law. I don't think we should conflate the behaviour of some individuals as the behaviour of all individuals. But what I would say to people who are currently thinking about going on a protest, the issues that you're protesting about have been around for a while. Sadly, they're not likely to come to an end in the next few days. Just take a step back. Imagine it was you that has suffered this devastating loss, and just give a bit of time with some kindness to a community so that they can grieve and process what has happened. Nothing will be lost, no freedom will be lost if there is a delay and a pause whilst people are allowed to grieve.
Dodd Foreman also said a lot of people are saying that the Jewish community are fearful of their lives, fearful of their future here, thinking of leaving. I mean, I know people from the Muslim community are feeling the same way because some of the anti-hate that you talked about last week in the local press in Birmingham about anti-Muslim hatred that your family members and people in your community, same community that I come from, have suffered. What on earth is going on? What are you now going to do as Home Secretary to reassure the Jewish community, Muslim communities and minorities, and also the wider society, that Britain is in a situation that none of us would ever imagine? What are you going to do about it?
Well, look, my first responsibility as Home Secretary is the safety and security of our country. That is what I'm absolutely focused on and determined to deliver so that all of our citizens can feel safe. As I've already said, I do not want our Jewish community here in this country to feel like they have to live a smaller Jewish life, that Jewish life cannot flourish here in the United Kingdom. That is not what we want to see. We want to see British Jewry flourishing in our nation. They are a part of our community. We are all united, and it is my responsibility to make sure that the arrangements we have for the safety and security of our citizens are up to scratch. We already work very closely with the community on protective security. I will, of course, want to review all of the measures that we have at our disposal. If there are lessons to be learned from what happened yesterday, I will make sure that they are learned. We do see this rising tide of anti-Semitism, and we have seen in recent weeks people from the Muslim community and also the Sikh community come out and talk about rising hatred. It is something that I worry about. It is my responsibility alongside the rest of the government to meet the scale of that challenge. The first start point must be our laws. We have strong laws against the incitement to racial hatred. They will be enforced. I'm working very closely with the police to make sure that the response is what we need it to be. And then there will be wider questions in the weeks and months to come around education and integration of our communities.
I just want to ask you, I'm so sorry, but we know you've got to go. You've talked about the country being on high alert. You've talked about increased police resource. Are you going to increase the terror threat level? Are you worried about more attacks?
Look, the terror threat level in this country is set by the Joint Terrorism Analysis Centre. That is an independent process. Those are the experts that review the threat levels in the country constantly. That is always kept under review. I'm sure they will be reflecting on what has happened yesterday and they will make those decisions going forward. It is right that that is an independent process led by the experts who are able to carry out that analysis on behalf of not just the government, but the whole country.
Right. Shabana Mahmood, Home Secretary, we really appreciate you joining us.
Certainly.
We appreciate it. It's a very difficult and challenging time for you, and we thank you for your time this morning.